When I found out my wife was cheating on me, I didn't scream. I didn't throw a lamp across the room. And I didn't storm into some restaurant to catch her in the act. No. I smiled, thanked the waiter, and walked out like a man who had just paid the check. Because by the time I discovered the truth, I already knew something even worse. She wasn't just betraying my marriage. She was helping someone steal my entire life. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 38, from Chicago, and for 12 years, I thought I had the kind of marriage people envied. My wife, Claire, was beautiful in that effortless, polished way that made everyone look twice. Smart, calm, charming, the kind of woman who could make a room trust her in 5 minutes. We'd been together for 14 years, married for 9. No kids. Not because we didn't want them. We just kept saying, maybe next year. Next year turned into a mortgage, then renovations, then my company, then silence. I built a logistics software business from my garage with my best friend Marcus. We started with 1 used laptop, 2 folding chairs, and enough caffeine to power a small city. 10 years later, we had 40 employees, corporate clients in 3 states, and enough money to finally breathe. At least that's what I thought. Claire had been with me from the beginning. She saw the all-nighters, the debt, the panic attacks, the near collapse. She used to hold my face in both hands and tell me, one day, this will all be worth it. That sentence carried me through some very dark nights. So when things started feeling off, I ignored it. That's what people do when the truth is too expensive. It started small. Claire began guarding her phone like it contained nuclear codes. She started going to late Pilates classes twice a week, even though she hated Pilates. She bought expensive perfume she only wore for herself. And somehow every argument we had became my fault before it even began. If I asked where she'd been, I was controlling. If I asked why she seemed distant, I was insecure. If I asked why she smiled at her screen at midnight and turned it away when I walked in, I was paranoid. I wanted to believe her, not because I trusted her blindly, but because I had built my whole future around the idea that she was still the woman I married. Then one Thursday afternoon, everything cracked. I was supposed to be in Milwaukee for a client meeting. Claire knew that. Marcus knew that. Everyone at the office knew that. But the meeting got canceled last minute, and instead of going home, I decided to surprise Claire with lunch downtown. She'd mentioned she had a marketing meeting near the river, and I thought maybe we could steal an hour together like we used to. I walked into this upscale restaurant, glass walls, white tablecloths, ridiculously tiny portions, and I saw her before she saw me. Claire was sitting in the corner booth, across from Marcus. At first, my brain tried to save me. It said, relax, it's business. Then Marcus reached across the table and touched her hand. Not casually, not like a friend, like a man who had done it 100 times. And then Claire smiled at him. Not the polite smile she gave strangers. Not the tired smile she gave me lately. It was warm, familiar. The kind of smile that says, I'm yours when no one's watching. I froze. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my organs and left me standing. I could have confronted them right there. But then Marcus leaned in and said something I couldn't hear. Claire laughed, and she touched his wrist. That tiny gesture told me everything. This wasn't new. This was practiced, routine, comfortable. I backed away before they saw me, sat in my car, and stared at the steering wheel for what felt like an hour. Then I did something that changed the entire course of my life. I didn't call Claire. I didn't call Marcus. I called my attorney. Her name was Dana Reeves, and she'd helped us with our company contracts for years. Sharp, ruthless, impossible to intimidate. She answered on the second ring. I said, Dana, I think my wife is having an affair with my business partner. There was a pause. Then she asked one question. Do you want to be emotional, Ethan, or do you want to be smart? That question saved me. I said, smart, not yet. She said if my wife was sleeping with Marcus, that was one disaster. But if my wife and business partner were coordinating something bigger, confronting them early would only give them time to clean it up. At the time, I thought she was being dramatic. I had no idea how right she was. That night, Claire came home around 8:30. She kissed my cheek, set her purse down, and asked, "How was Milwaukee?" I looked at her and realized this woman could lie with the same face she used to tell me she loved me. "Long day," I said. She nodded sympathetically and went upstairs to shower. I sat in the kitchen, hands clenched under the table, and understood something ugly about betrayal. The affair hurts, but the lying, the casual, polished, ordinary lying, that's what really destroys you. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a stranger in my own life. I watched, I listened, I documented everything. Dana connected me with a forensic accountant and a private investigator. I felt insane doing it, like I had become some bitter, suspicious man in a cheap thriller. But by the 5th day, the evidence started pouring in. Photos of Claire and Marcus entering a boutique hotel. Texts between them discussing weekends I thought Claire was visiting her sister. Encrypted messages about finalizing the transfer. That phrase bothered me. Finalizing the transfer. It didn't sound romantic. It sounded financial. So Dana dug deeper into company records. That's when the real betrayal surfaced. For months, Marcus had been moving money through a vendor account that didn't actually exist. Small amounts at first, then larger ones, always just low enough to avoid triggering internal alerts. And the LLC tied to that fake vendor? It had been registered under Claire's maiden name. I remember sitting in Dana's office, staring at those documents, unable to speak. She slid the papers toward me and said quietly, "Your wife isn't just cheating on you. She's helping him steal from you." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was too much. Affair? Maybe. Lies? Sure. But this was annihilation. I went home that night and watched Claire sleeping beside me. The same woman who used to bring me soup when I was sick. The same woman who cried at our wedding vows. The same woman who once told me, "Whatever happens, it's you and me against the world." Now I understood. It had always been them against me. That was the night something inside me died. And in its place, something colder took over. People think revenge is rage. It isn't. Real revenge is patience. Real revenge is silence. Real revenge is making sure the truth arrives all at once. So, I made a plan. First, I quietly moved my personal assets into protected accounts Dana helped structure legally. Every move documented, every step clean. Second, I informed 2 board members, men I trusted, men Marcus underestimated, and showed them enough evidence to ensure they'd back me when the time came. Third, I let Marcus believe he was winning. That was the easiest part. He started showing up late to meetings, acting bolder, interrupting me in front of clients like he was already in charge. Claire got meaner at home too, more impatient. It was almost like betrayal had made them arrogant. One evening, Claire told me we should take some space. She stood in our living room, arms folded, expression carefully sad, and said, "I just don't know who we are anymore, Ethan." I nearly admired the performance. Instead I asked, "What do you want?" She sighed like I was exhausting. "I think maybe we've grown apart." There it was, the script, the soft launch before the real explosion. She wanted out, but only after she made sure she landed somewhere comfortable. I nodded and said, "If that's what you need." She looked relieved. That relief told me everything. She thought I was weak. She thought I was confused. She thought guilt and fake tears would carry her through the divorce, while Marcus quietly took control of the company. What she didn't know was that Dana had already filed emergency legal protections over several shared assets, and the board had scheduled a financial review meeting Marcus knew nothing about. I waited 6 more days. 6 days of eating dinner across from my wife while she texted another man under the table. 6 days of hearing Marcus talk strategy in the office like I wasn't already reading the transcripts of his private messages. 6 days of becoming absolutely certain. Then came Friday. Quarterly leadership meeting. Full board present. Marcus arrived wearing that smug navy suit he reserved for big presentations. Claire had texted me that morning saying she'd be with friends that night. I'm sure she thought by Monday her new life would officially begin. Marcus stood at the front of the conference room and started presenting expansion numbers. He was halfway through a slide about projected revenue when I interrupted him. Actually, I said, before we continue, there's another presentation. He looked annoyed, then confused. Dana walked in carrying a folder. Behind her came the forensic accountant. Then one of the board members closed the door. You ever watch confidence die in real time? It's unforgettable. Marcus tried to laugh it off at first. What is this? Dana placed the documents on the table, one by one. Fraudulent invoices, bank transfers, shell company registration, message logs, hotel records. Breach of fiduciary duty. Every page stripped another layer off his face. He started sweating, started talking faster, started saying things like, "This isn't what it looks like." That line is almost insulting, because guilty people never understand how stupid it sounds once the evidence is stacked in front of them. Then I dropped the final piece. I slid a printed photo across the table. Marcus and Claire, kissing outside the hotel. Silence. One board member leaned back and muttered, "Jesus Christ." Marcus looked at me like he'd never actually seen me before. Maybe because for the first time, I wasn't his best friend. I was the man ending his life. He tried blaming Claire, said she handled the accounts, said he was manipulated, said he was emotionally compromised. Pathetic. The board voted to remove him immediately, pending criminal referral and civil action. His access was revoked before he even left the building. Security escorted him out, carrying a cardboard box like every corporate cliché he once mocked. And that should have been enough. But I wasn't done. Because Marcus was only half the betrayal. Claire was waiting at home when I got there. She was dressed to go out. Black dress, gold earrings, that same perfume. For 1 second I just looked at her and wondered how long she'd been gone before I noticed. She smiled faintly. "You're home early." I placed the folder on the kitchen island. "Your night just opened up." Her smile faded. She flipped through the documents, and I watched the blood drain from her face, page by page. The hotel photos, the bank records, the LLC, the messages. By the time she got to the divorce papers, her hands were shaking. "Ethan." "No," I said. "You've talked enough." She started crying immediately, which almost offended me. Because now she wanted honesty. Now she wanted emotion. She said it wasn't supposed to go this far, that Marcus had convinced her it was temporary, that she felt trapped, that we had been unhappy for years, that she made mistakes. Mistakes. I hate that word. Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. Backing into a mailbox is a mistake. Sleeping with your husband's best friend while helping him steal from the business your husband built? That's not a mistake. That's character. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Then she said the one thing I'll never forget. "I never meant to destroy you." And I believed her. Because the truth is, people like Claire rarely think that far ahead. They don't plan destruction. They just follow desire, entitlement, and convenience. And destruction becomes the result. I told her Marcus had been fired, criminal lawyers were next, and the divorce would proceed exactly as filed. She collapsed into a chair like her bones had disappeared. Then she whispered, "What am I supposed to do?" And I looked at the woman who had betrayed my bed, my trust, my business, my future. And for the first time in months, I felt absolutely nothing. I said, "Figure it out. You're good at that." She moved out 3 days later. The divorce was brutal, but not in the way people expect. There were no screaming matches, no broken dishes, no dramatic voicemail recordings, just documents, silence, and consequences. Because Claire had participated in financial misconduct, her legal position weakened fast. Dana made sure every fact mattered. Marcus ended up facing fraud charges and settled the civil suit with what little he had left. Nobody in our industry would touch him again. Claire tried reaching out several times over the following months. Birthdays, holidays, late-night emails with subject lines like, "Please just read." I never replied. Not because I was cruel, but because some doors only have to close once. People ask me if revenge made me feel better. Here's the truth. Not at first. At first, it just kept me moving. It gave shape to the pain, direction to the humiliation, a target for the chaos. But revenge alone doesn't heal you. It only clears the battlefield. What changed everything came after. 6 months later, I sold my stake in the company at a valuation higher than I ever imagined. Not because I was forced to, because I wanted freedom. No ghosts in the hallways, no conference rooms full of memories. I took a year off, traveled, saw parts of myself I had buried under stress and survival. I slept better, laughed more, started boxing, started therapy, learned how much of my marriage had been me trying to earn love from someone who only valued what I provided. And one night in Seattle, sitting alone in a quiet restaurant with rain hitting the windows, I realized something that hit harder than the betrayal ever did. Claire didn't ruin my life. She revealed it. She exposed the cracks I was too loyal, too busy, too afraid to see. My marriage wasn't a masterpiece that got destroyed. It was a beautiful lie that finally collapsed. And once it did, I got to build something real. That was my revenge. Not the evidence, not the courtroom, not watching Marcus escorted out. Those things were satisfying, sure. But the real revenge was this. I survived. I rebuilt. I became impossible to use again. A year after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Nora. No dramatic music. No instant fireworks. Just honesty. Peace. The strange comfort of being with someone who says exactly what they mean. The first time I told her the story, I expected pity. Instead, she looked at me and said, "I'm sorry that happened, but I'm glad you found out." That sentence landed like truth. Because betrayal feels like the end when you're inside it. But sometimes betrayal is just exposure. Sometimes the people who break your heart also break your illusions. And once the illusions are gone, you can finally stop living the wrong life. I heard through mutual contacts that Claire moved to Arizona. Marcus, last I heard, was consulting under a fake title for some tiny startup that probably didn't know his past. Good luck to them. I don't say that sarcastically. I mean it. Because carrying hatred forever is just another way of staying loyal to people who never deserved you. Do I forgive them? Maybe. Do I trust them? Never. And that difference matters. If you're listening to this while lying awake next to someone who suddenly feels like a stranger, if your gut has been whispering what your heart refuses to hear, if you just found out the person you built your future around has been living a double life, listen carefully. Don't rush. Don't explode. Don't hand guilty people time to prepare their excuses. Get smart. Get calm. Get proof. And then choose a response that protects your future, not just your pride. Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's revelation. It's consequences. It's peace. It's waking up one day and realizing the people who betrayed you no longer have the power to define you. My wife betrayed me. My best friend betrayed me. And yes, my revenge changed everything. But not because it ruined them, because it freed me. And in the end, that was worth more than the marriage, more than the company, more than the years they stole. They thought they were taking my life. What they really did was give me back the truth. And once a man has the truth, he can rebuild anything.